Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Camille, the president of Albertus Magnus College, and today we come together for the second in our new series, Coffee with the President. I'm really blessed to be joined today by Sister Anne Kilbride, who serves as the Assistant to the President for Dominican Mission. And Sister, it's really good to be with you today. You've had a long affiliation with the college, a former Board of Trustee member, and now, of course, I'm grateful for your willingness to serve in this new role of Assistant for Dominican Mission. But today, we're coming together to talk about the Aquinas Lecture Series. And maybe to get things started for us, give us a little bit of a background about the event. I know it's been in place for 5 or 6 years, but a little bit about the history and the inspiration for the series.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that, Dr. Camille. When the Dominican Mission Office was founded, we wanted to try to find a way to enlarge and promote the Catholic intellectual tradition and the Dominican tradition of the college, both within the college community and also within the wider community that surrounds us, by inviting people also to join us for these lectures. Mm-hmm. So that led to a luncheon and an evening series, which we've done for the last few years. And the purpose of it was to explore the tradition and how it is still relevant today. In the beginning, we had all Dominican speakers who came from the tradition, because we wanted the community, both the college community and the local community, to realize the vastness of the Dominican family and the different scholarship that they have contributed to the world and to the church and to maybe the institutions from which they came. We were very, very fortunate when we started this series to have a college endowment. It's the Marie-Louise Bianchi Fund. Marie-Louise was a graduate from 1931. And when she was a student here, she loved Thomas Aquinas. Mm-hmm. And she left this wonderful gift that the college could promote the themes and the methodology of Thomas Aquinas. So we've used these funds to promote these lectures, because all the topics that we have chosen are things that Thomas talked about, and then we try to bring how are they still relevant today through this series. Fantastic. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to meet many people from the Dominican family and also a wider circle of people.
Excellent. So Sister, Albertus Magnus is a Catholic college in the Dominican tradition. Speak a little bit about how the Aquinas Lecture Series contributes to the fulfillment and engagement of that mission.
From our mission statement, I think you'll recall the essential part of it is the promotion of truth in all its dimensions. And I think what we've tried to do through this series is to explore different topics where people are reflecting and thinking about an area that is of interest to them, and the truth of it in our given time and in our situation, and the foundation that we have from our Catholic heritage and our Dominican heritage to explore that truth. Mm. Another thing I think from our mission statement is to meet the needs of men and women in our own time. And I think the topics that we've tried to choose around, whether it's social justice or Pope Francis's call for mercy, whether it's about ecology, we've tried to really reflect on what are people really thinking about and pondering about in our world today, and want to have an opportunity to dialogue with one another and to share ideas with a presenter who has done more research and more study in that topic. Another thing that I think fits very well into our mission in the Dominican tradition is that familiar quote of Dominicans, to contemplate and to share with others the fruits of your contemplation. So the lectures invite people to think more deeply about a different topic, and then to not stop at the lecture and it's not over and when the lecture is over, but to continue that dialogue beyond that evening. So I think that's some of the things that we've tried to do in terms of connecting with the mission of the college.
So Sister, let's run with this a little bit. Mm-hmm. The series, clearly it is mission inspired, and it really, in my mind, helps us more fully live out the mission of the college. But let's talk a little bit about how the series really builds from and builds upon the Dominican pillars and values that really are at the heart of our culture on campus.
Well, for me, I think Albertus, since its founding, has always tried to provide a holistic education for all of its students, traditional day and adult students. And the pillars have been the guide to do that. So let me just mention each one by name.
Please.
And how it fits into this particular lecture series. So study, that's what we're about. We're an educational institution. We want to provide opportunities for people to study maybe in the areas that they don't know as much about, and to deepen their knowledge and awareness and their ability to dialogue with other people. Our second one, prayer and spirituality. In addition to expanding the mind, we also want to expand the heart. And spirituality in a person expands the heart. And in all of these lectures, we, yes, get intellectual ideas and expand our ideas, but the other thing that our speakers have done for us is to give us practical applications, which is very familiar within our mission statement, also to how to live out this particular topic that they're talking about. And so that's that expansion of heart, which makes us a more generous and loving person. Hopefully, when we graduate from Albertus, we not only have intellectual competency, but we also have grown as a person. The third one, community. I think a college is about being a learning community. We're all learning together. We don't learn alone. And certainly a lecture series, especially the way it's set up, provides that opportunity to learn with other people. We have the presenter who is expanding our mind, and then we have a little moment of reflection for people to think about, well, what is this saying to me? A little shared conversation maybe with the person next to you, and then an opportunity to do comments and questions with the presenter, and then hopefully to continue the dialogue beyond that particular time. And the last one, service, I think connects back to that second one of prayer and spirituality. Many of these topics not only expand our mind, but expand our heart. And I think they inspire us to become active in what we speak about, and also might lead us to service when we become aware of a need that's greater than myself. And so I think it does also lead often to being much more aware of a service opportunity, perhaps connected with a topic.
Thanks. I'm reminded when the third pillar being learning. I'm reminded of the inspiration for this very series for me to continue to learn more about our community. So this is helpful. Thank you. The series is named for St. Thomas Aquinas, and each of the lectures has been named for one of the famous Dominicans. Let's share a little bit about the inspiration for that.
Happy to. Well, as we know, the series was made possible through the alumni gift of Marie-Louise Bianchi, who was devoted to the study of particularly the Summa and the works of St. Thomas Aquinas. Now, we also have a lecture named for him, too, but I'll take each one in the order that they come during the year.
Okay.
So the first one we have is the St. Albert the Great Lecture. And, of course, Albert is the person who the college is named after,
Our
very
namesake.
appropriately, our namesake. Albert is a great model for a college community because he was a student and a teacher. As a student, he studied in many areas. He saw learning as a whole, not just as a segmented parts. And so he did philosophy, and he did theology, he did ethics, he did science, especially now the natural sciences. And he was a great observer. He said his greatest joy was when his students went beyond him. And two of his students were Thomas Aquinas and Meister Eckhart, a great Dominican spiritual writer. And it's interesting to note that when Thomas died before Albert, and it was Albert who went to Rome to defend the works of Thomas and probably saved many of them for us and for the theologians who still study Thomas today. So I think he is exemplary in terms of a person to have the college named after and also to have a lecture named after.
Mm-hmm.
Our second one is Thomas Aquinas in January, because we do it in the month of their feast day. And Thomas was one of the greatest theologians, still studied today, not only for his content, but also for his methodology of moving a question through its many parts. He provides the inspiration for many of the themes of the lectures. And the last one in April is the St. Catherine of Siena lecture. And Catherine is one of the 3 women doctors of the church. And what is most interesting about Catherine is, as a child, she was illiterate. And yet, she left this wonderful legacy of her dialogue with God, kind of like a diary with God, her prayers, and the letters she wrote. As a wonderful person in the Middle Ages, she was rather unique. She was a person who spoke her mind, but she always said to speak the truth, but to do it with charity. Mm. She was a peacemaker, and she was a deeply compassionate woman who walked journeys with the sick and with the imprisoned. Mm. So we have 3 great examples of people who really are inspirational to all of us even today if we look at their lives.
Absolutely. And before we talk about this year's schedule, as you reflect back on the previous 4 or 5 years of the series, mm-hmm. who are some of the more memorable lectures that the college has brought to campus?
Mm-hmm. Well, these are all Dominican ones, because I said to you before, early on, we did Dominican speakers. And the first one is Timothy Radcliffe, a well-known theologian, and he's from England, and he spent 2 days with us. Mm-hmm. He spent a day working with the faculty, and then did a lecture for the wider community. And he was a Master General of the Dominican Order, or he's a writer and he's a theologian, and he is at the Dominican House at Oxford University. The first talk to the general public was, how can we talk about God today? And he looked at how in a secular world we can find God in the ordinary. And he, I think, tried to get each one of us to look at how we see God in the ordinary events of our daily lives and in what surrounds us. He talked about the relational part of teaching and learning, mm-hmm. learning and teaching, and that it's just not about ideas, but it's also about the relationship that we form with our students. So we had 2 wonderful days with him. A second one is Mary Catherine Hilkert, also a Dominican Sister of Peace, who will also be here for your inauguration in May to give a major presentation. Right. And she talked about reading the Word of God and the book of nature. And she talked about how one connects with the other, that if we read Scripture and we look at our world, we get a holistic picture. And certainly we're being called in this time and age to look at the natural world and what the universe is and our world is trying to tell us and speaking to us. And a third one was Father David Caron, who at that time was president of Aquinas Institute at St. Louis, mm-hmm. and now is working for the Archdiocese of New Orleans. And he talked about another topic, which is still relevant as well as when he gave the talk, on choosing civility and respect, a Catholic and Dominican perspective. But he also went back to those words of Catherine about speaking the truth with love, and that what we say is important, but also how we say it to one another is equally important. Mm. So those are 3 that come back to me just reflecting on them.
So I'm sure a lot of our viewers are going to be interested in this year's lineup, and I know we've got great speakers lined up. But so let's come forward to the current year. Okay. Who do we have scheduled for this year's series?
Well, this year is a little different. Usually we've had we've invited people from the local community, especially in January where the weather is a little more tenuous, but also from a broader context. But this year, all of our speakers are from the local community. So this was kind of a little different perspective. 2 of the lectures are going to talk about the intersection of the great faith traditions and how they are informing one another and speaking with one another in today's world. The other one is going to continue our conversation from Founders Day last year on the care of creation and talk about the journey of the story of the universe. So first of all, the first one, the St. Albert the Great, is going to be given by Rabbi Herbert Brockman, who is faith leader at Michigan Israel in Hamden. He's a 7th generation rabbi in his family.
Wow.
And he has been very active in the greater New Haven community. He also, when he did a sabbatical, studied at the Gregorian University in Rome. So he's very knowledgeable about how we all have to work together. He also is an honorary degree recipient from Albertus Magnus College. So he is going to talk about the essence of interfaith dialogue, faith over fear. And he's going to look at the role of religion in times of political, social, and economic upheaval. I think that he will help us all see how our faith traditions inform our response to the lived world that we're all trying to create a better one together. Our second lecture is in January, and it's the Thomas Aquinas Lecture. And the name of the lecture is Journey of the Universe, an epic story for a shared future. Mary Evelyn Tucker will be giving that presentation. She is an author, a filmmaker, and a director at the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology. And she's going to help us look at transformative actions that can help us look at our role in the universe and our role of being members of the universe community and how to use that in a productive way, our particular roles. Our third lecture in April is the Catherine of Siena Lecture, and the title of that one is Catholic-Muslim Relations, Current Perspectives and Future Directions. And in that talk, our speaker will talk about serious engagement that fosters authentic dialogue about current issues of which the Islamic and Christian Catholic community both have concerns. And we are fortunate to have Imam Omar Bajwa, who is Director of Muslim Life in the Chaplain's Office at Yale University, to be our speaker. So I think it's going to be an interesting series, and I think all of them are talking about issues and concerns that we all have questions about, and how to become more effective in living in our communities together.
So we have a great lineup for this year. If someone wants to get more information and to attend the lectures, how do they do that? What can they expect?
Well, all the lectures are at 5:15 in the campus, in the Being Community Room in the campus center, and we try to do that in order to allow people coming from work to stop in, and we're finished by 6:30, so there's time to go home and have supper, or a good excuse not to have to go home and cook supper, stop and get something to eat along the way. Although hospitality is also important to us, so we do have refreshments for the lecture, but maybe not enough for supper. Anyhow, if you want to find out more information, please go to our website. Also, another way to find out more information is to contact the alumni office, who handle all the reservations. If you want to be on our mailing list, and I would really urge you, because you'll get a little postcard telling you about the series, and then as each lecture comes up, you'll get a reminder postcard. If you want to send in your name, etc., to the alumni office, we will contact you that way. So I just want to say a little bit too about a couple of things that past attendees have told me about what they liked about the lectures. And one person said to me, I found the lectures informative and helpful in my own search for meaning in my own daily life. So I thought that was pretty good. I'm sure we all like some better than others, but I think that was a positive thing. And another person said to me, I enjoyed the way the lectures are set up. Input from a presenter who is knowledgeable in what they're talking about, and then some time for the community to interact with one another and with the presenter.
Great. Well, Sister, I too have found our time today to be informative and helpful, and I'm grateful for your continued dedication to the college. And this wraps up our second in the series of Coffee with the President. I continue to learn more about this wonderful college on a daily basis, and I'm looking forward to continuing the dialogue over the course of the year. Thanks for joining us.